The United States national team secured a goalless draw versus England in their second game at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The Group B match had the English side heavily favored, but the U.S. came up with a very disciplined and positive performance. It's the USA's first shutout of a European team at the World Cup since 1950 when they shut out England, but they won that game 1-0. No yellow cards handed out in this game. The U.S. did have the best chance. Christian Pulisic hitting the crossbar. A very good performance for them. Don't get the win, but they do get the point, which is key as they move forward towards their final game versus Iran coming up next Tuesday. So take a look at the full-time match stats. The U.S. had the better of the shots with 10 shots, but only put one on target. 7 corners, lots of set-piece opportunities for the United States in this game, but they could not convert, whereas England had the bulk of the possession slightly, 55-45. CBS Sports HQ presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And let's go out to Qatar and join our Grant Wahl at Al Bayt Stadium in Al Khor. Grant, what's your main takeaway from this very positive result for the U.S.?
Well, the U.S. outplayed one of the favorites to win the World Cup, and so you can take some real satisfaction from that if you're the U.S. And yet, I still feel like they're going to be frustrated as they were after the first game because 3 points were there for the taking tonight. The U.S. had the best chances to score in this game. They had a lot of control for a stretch in the second half. I thought Greg Berhalter could have made his sub so much earlier in this game, and again, Greg Berhalter's substitution patterns deserve to be questioned after this game. I would have liked to see Gio Reyna come in around the 60th minute instead of the 84th minute, and the first subs weren't even made until we were well into the 70s. But the U.S. is in a position now where a win against Iran will get it to the round of 16, and we kind of knew that heading into the game, but still, they're going to need to win the game. They got to take care of it. You need W's at a certain point.
But one of the positive parts, though, Grant, is that the feeling is a lot different with this draw versus that draw versus Wales.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, England's a favorite to win the tournament, so they're a heavyweight, and the U.S. really did neutralize some of the biggest weapons that England has. Jude Bellingham had very little impact on this game, which surprised me in a good way for the U.S. The speedsters out on the wings, Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling, didn't really have a big impact on this game, nor did the English subs. And so defensively, I think a very good performance by the U.S. And goalkeeper Matt Turner had a big save on Mason Mount at the end of the first half that I think gave the U.S. some confidence. But Turner didn't have to make that many saves in this game.
Yeah, the U.S. really defended England's attack very well. No time or space on the ball for a lot of those English players, as you pointed out. So how big of a confidence boost is this for this U.S. team going into that Iran game, knowing that they've held one of the World Cup favorites to a goalless draw?
Well, it's one thing to say, if you're the U.S., we can beat anybody in the world on a given day, but they're backing it up now. They could have won this game, and I think some more precise finishing could have done that for the U.S. They'll feel like at this point they've got 2 points. They probably should have 4 or maybe even 6 after 2 games and be thinking about winning the group, but right now they just need to focus everything on winning this game against Iran, which had a much better performance today than in its first game. But honestly, if you can't beat Iran, you probably shouldn't deserve to advance to the round of 16.
Well, one of the things that Thomas Rongen said earlier was that this Iran team is better than a lot of people think, and so they are not a team that is to be underestimated, certainly by the United States, as they head into that final game. Another positive point for the U.S. is the fact there were no yellow cards in this game, so that means they're going to have all their players available for that game against Iran.
No, and I think that's really important. You don't want guys to be thinking while they're playing in that third game that they have to sort of, keep their powder dry because they don't want to go in on somebody for a card. You still are going to have 4 guys with cards going into that game if you're the U.S., so you don't want to get a card to be suspended for the elimination rounds. But this reminds me of World Cup 2010 a little bit. The U.S. had 2 points after 2 games in that tournament, needed a win in the last group game, got it against Algeria so famously with Landon Donovan. And this game against Iran is shaping up as something very similar to that game against Algeria.
And Iran's going to take the game very seriously with a chance to get out of the group because of the fact that U.S. have to win that game. They cannot take a draw there. Grant, we got to see Gio Reyna in this game. How big was it for him just to get out there?
Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed with the ability of Gio Reyna to get out on the field. He just didn't have enough time, and that was very frustrating, I think. You know, Gio Reyna has the talent to be able to impact a game against a heavyweight like England. The U.S. doesn't have any players like that. That's why I like to see Gio Reyna get on at least in the 60th minute if he's not going to start. If you're bringing him on in the 84th minute, I don't think you're getting the full capabilities out of what Gio Reyna can do.
And now we'll get to see whether or not he actually gets to play, perhaps to start in the next game as they take on Iran on Tuesday. So, Grant, just finally, if you're England, what's your takeaway from this result? Obviously, the English media, there's going to be a lot of questions about England in this game, but what's the main takeaway for Gareth Southgate if you're England? Oh, Grant, did we lose you? I think we lost you. Are you back? Grant, can you hear me? Oh. Technical difficulties from Qatar. That's what happens. So let's take a look at the Group B table. As mentioned, so the USA get a point, so that's 2 draws for them, but now they have to win. They have to win on that final match day versus Iran, who sit in second place after their big win over Wales on match day 2 here in Group B. England could have secured their place in the knockout stage with a win today. As such, they do not. So this group is still very wide open heading into that final match day. England taking on Wales coming up on Tuesday. Iran facing the United States, a must-win situation for the Americans. They'll certainly be feeling good about themselves after a creditable goalless draw versus England here today. And for more on this game, and certainly previewing what's going on in the Iran game coming up on Tuesday, be sure to check out In Soccer We Trust. They're going to be talking all about this game. Keith Pierce, Charlie Davies. Download and follow In Soccer We Trust wherever you get your podcasts, or you can just stay tuned to here on HQ because we're going to them for post-match reaction next on HQ.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.